Let's talk about these Minnesota Timberwolves because I love what I saw in round one between them and the Lakers. I'm not going to lie. I was wrong. I had the Lakers in five just because I thought that the Lakers somehow would outmatch them in the clutch, that Luka and LeBron and Austin Reeves would be too much for Anthony Edwards to overcome. But man, oh man, I was completely wrong. Not mad about it whatsoever because I'm a Celtics fan, so I have no problem seeing the Lakers getting knocked out in the first round. But just looking at the roster construction and look at the matchups, it should have been clear as day that Minnesota was better than expected. I was just thinking, they had their inconsistencies. I remember they had two losses against the Pacers and Pelicans, and they had guys missing. And they were playing really well at the time. I was just thinking, why are they losing to teams like this? But it didn't matter. Obviously, when the playoffs start, you start from scratch at 0-0. And a few things that stood out to me in the series was Minnesota's execution in those clutch situations where they averaged as a team 9.8 turnovers in that series. That is really impressive because one of the things I have concerns about with Minnesota is their playmaking. Do they have enough ball handlers who can make the right decisions, make the right reads? And let's just talk about Anthony Edwards. His playmaking leap is obviously happening right before our eyes. He didn't force things out there. When they were sending double teams, he wasn't trying to force action by splitting the double teams and trying to dribble out of traffic. He was making the right decisions, and he averaged 1.2 turnovers a game. That is really impressive. On top of that, 6.2 assists a game. He led the team in assists. You look at obviously the turnovers, they did a great job of not turning the ball over, which would have given the Lakers, opportunities to score in transition. And Anthony Edwards he had 27 points tonight. And I know he only shot 42% from the field, but he was seeing a lot of double teams. And that's understandable. I thought to myself, he was phenomenal in the series, just playing within control and within the flow of the offense. And then Julius Randle, the known playoff dropper, a guy who doesn't show up in the playoffs, was fantastic. He was aggressive going to the basket. He attacked all his mismatches, 48% from the field, 39% from three on 5.6 attempts. Again, shout out Julius Randle. I'm happy to see success for him because I know he had some rough first rounds for the New York Knicks and, of course, in their playoff series. In the Pacers, he just had a tough time on their playoff run. And, it's tough because you want to see him show up next to Brunson. Just didn't work out for Julius Randle. But ever since he came to Minnesota, he's been really good. It's been a change of scenery. It's been good for Julius Randle. So to see him put up these numbers where he's giving you, 22 a night, he's giving you 5 rebounds, and not the most rebounds, but his playmaking, 4.4 assists, and turn the ball over about 3 times a night. Again, he got the ball in the post a lot, so I'm not mad about him turning the ball over. They still average under 10 for a team that has struggled with playmaking in the past. But again, credit to Minnesota. They just did a great job of controlling the basketball, not turning it over, playing smart. And yeah, they had their lows at times on the offensive side of the ball, but man, they were just really great in those clutch situations. There's just no doubt about that. Then we look at the Rudy Gobert game where dude was phenomenal in the closeout game. And a lot of guys struggled in it. I think they shot, correct me if I'm wrong, Minnesota fans, I think they shot over under 15% from three, and they still won. Rudy Gobert, 27 points, 24 rebounds. It was just shocking to watch. But what I love about Minnesota's game plan was when the Lakers doubled Anthony Edwards, or they tried to get the ball out of his hands, they were looking for Rudy Gobert a lot. And he got a lot of lob dunks. He got a lot of easy putbacks, a lot of layups, and finishing at the rim. And credit to Minnesota for just attacking that mismatch because Jackson Hayes became unplayable. He wasn't a reliable big guy for the Lakers. So the Lakers really went with 6 guys. So they play LeBron heavy minutes, Austin Reeves, and Luka Doncic. And another guy I want to talk about is Jaden McDaniels. I saw a guy out there who was unafraid to attack the basket. He was trying to finish at the rim. I mean, you shoot 57% from the field, 37% from three. I know he only took three 3-point attempts, but that is a really good number for him. He was always attacking constantly, especially when he had Luka Doncic. He was going at him nonstop. Wasn't afraid to go downhill. Sure, he had his moments where he didn't finish at the rim, but to be at 57% overall in the first round, Minnesota just really impressed me. And we could talk about the Lakers all day long. We could say, their roster didn't have the right pieces, but they were the heavy favorites. Let's just not sugarcoat it. They were expected to win this series, and Minnesota just outplayed them. They were the better basketball team. From the first game on, they just took it to the Lakers. Even game 2, the Lakers had a big lead, but the Minnesota Timberwolves cut into that lead. Didn't get enough offense that night, but they came home. They won two big clutch games, and then they won an ugly game in LA where their defense held up. And again, their defense is just really good as well. They're top 10 in offense and top 10 in defense. And Anthony Edwards continues to knock out these legends. First, it was Kevin Durant, Devin Booker last year, Nikola Jokic, and he knocks out LeBron, Luka this year. Now he has a chance to knock out Steph Curry, and I think the Timberwolves will move on to the Western Conference Finals. I got the Timberwolves win that series in 6 games. I'll get to that series a little bit later, but man, they were just fantastic. They were awesome in the series, and they deserve a ton of credit for how they just showed up night in and night out. The offense was solid when it needed to be. They hit the big shots. Naz Reid had some big threes. Anthony Edwards, of course, was big time for them. And Julius Randle in game 5, what I love about Randle, he was hustling just every play. Like on offense, he was trying to make plays. On defense, he was diving on the floor. In those last 3 minutes of the game, he really wanted that W. And he showed out for the Minnesota Timberwolves. So, like Wolves fans, I know you guys have probably had a roller coaster of a season where the Wolves didn't start strong. They were at the bottom of the Western Conference, and they turn it on late. They obviously had those frustrating losses, like I mentioned, to the Pelicans and the Pacers. Those were some strange losses. That's why I wasn't sure about the Timberwolves in the series, but they're riding high. They got a ton of momentum, and I expect them to be in the Western Conference Finals. And who knows what's going to happen at that point. But they are playing with a lot of momentum right now. They got all of it on their side. And you just beat the LA Lakers, a team that was heavily favored to knock them out in 5 games. And the prediction was in reverse order, which is hilarious. I mean, Shannon Sharp is probably having a hard time, with this whole situation, especially when it was Lakers in 5, and nope, you lost in 5 games. So I don't want to hear an excuse about the Lakers, though. I don't want to hear like, oh, we didn't have the roster. No, you were expected to win this series. You just didn't play well, and Minnesota took it from you guys. And, this is huge for the Wolves, especially with the year they had where they traded Cat. You probably wondered, man, we had our second option. We were 3 games away from making the NBA Finals, and all of a sudden it looks just fine. And Dante's been really good for them ever since he came back from that injury. I know he was hurt, and I believe in the middle of the season. So he's back, knocking down shots. Mike Conley, just being a staple as a veteran, had some really good defensive plays in this series. And of course, Anthony Edwards. I mean, what more can you say? We're seeing a playmaking leap from him, and he is playing more in control. And that just comes with time and growth, and he's still young. That's what's scary about Anthony Edwards. He still has room to grow in his game. And if he gets to another Western Conference Finals, in my opinion, this would be more impressive than last year because you changed your second option to Julius Randle, a guy who is known not to be just reliable in the playoffs, and he shows up. And Anthony Edwards was really good. I know he didn't shoot well from the field, but he played smart basketball. He didn't force things out there, and he knew when to take over games. That's what I love about his approach against the Lakers. He was just really good from the beginning of the series to the end of the series. So shout out to the Timberwolves. You guys deserve a ton of credit for the way you played in this series. And I love what I'm seeing from Minnesota. They look really scary. And to get back to another Western Conference Finals, if they end up in that situation, which I think they will, it's going to be really impressive, especially all the ups and downs they had. And no matter what happens, if they end up, if they face Denver, I think they'll go to the NBA Finals. But I think they'll probably likely face OKC. But regardless of what happens, this is a step in the right direction. And the Timberwolves just continue to show, like, yes, we got to change our roster, but we still have Anthony Edwards. We still have Rudy Gobert. And we're going to keep winning despite the obstacles. And it's just really impressive to see, especially from a young guy like Anthony Edwards. And I'm sure he had his frustrations this year with the roster and wondering if things could bounce back and could they turn their season around. And the Timberwolves have done just that, and they deserve a ton of credit for how they've just managed the expectations and just getting back in the second round. Hope you guys enjoyed this video today. I'd love to hear your thoughts about the Timberwolves win this series in 5 games, not the Lakers in 5, but the Wolves in 5. And do you think the Timberwolves are going to advance to the Western Conference Finals? Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you in the next one.